Our final panelist is Arthus Goldberg from JONAH International.
Hi, my name is Arthus Goldberg, and with due respect, I would obviously disagree with some of the points brought up by Cantor. But let me first, before I give some of my disagreements with her on a variety of issues, let me first explain that there are actually three branches within Judaism. There is Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform. Actually, there's Reconstructionist, there's a series of them. I often make a joke, I said this last night to somebody over there, is that if you have two Jews, you have 10 opinions. So there's many different traditions. However, the Jewish tradition as such comes down as the Orthodox tradition. And that's really where that's the mainstream, so to speak, of Judaism that's followed through from the Torah and the Talmud. We believe, basically, and I come from the viewpoint of being a believer in Orthodox Judaism, so my position is going to be much more aligned with that of Orthodox Judaism than Reform Judaism or Conservative Judaism. And Conservative Judaism is kind of in between anyway. They kind of try to straddle a number of fences. Just as a little point of information, when they dealt with the issue of gay and lesbians in Michigan seminaries and also about same-sex unions, they actually passed, in the conservative movement, you can have, if you have more than 6 votes on their halacha, on their legal committee, that's considered a lawful opinion of the movement. And so they had 3 opinions that were passed by the movement. Opinion number 1 was that gay and lesbians can be admitted to the rabbinical seminary, and further that gay coupling is fine as long as there's no male intercourse in the bedroom. Of course, my question is who's going to be there with a flashlight, but neither here nor there. But that's one position. That was passed by a vote of 13 to 12. And this is for 25 people on that committee. Then there was a vote which said, no, it's against the law, which is the quote, and that passed by a vote of 13 to 12. It's interesting that one guy, therefore, voted for both resolutions. Kind of a little bit incredible. I mean, they're totally contradictory, but nevertheless he did. And then there was a third position that basically said, well, not only is it against halakha, or against the law, but also people who are desirous of change can indeed change. And that also passed. So there are really 3 different positions within the conservative movement. So, which is why I say they kind of try to stand on, every stool around in terms of trying to be all things to all people. The Orthodox view is much more straightforward. Basically says that, okay, there is this provision in Leviticus 18:22, which in the Talmud, which is the oral, and by the way, another thing that we would disagree, and this is just theological disagreement, we believe that the Torah was divinely revealed as opposed to divinely inspired, and that what is in the Torah is the Word of God, and that also relates to the oral law in terms of the Talmud. So, just FYI. In any event, they say, okay, so what does Leviticus 18:22 mean? And what it really says is 2 things. First of all, that the term abomination or perversion, which is set forth there as a literal translation, simply refers to the action, not to the person. And I think it's very, very important that that be clearly articulated, that in the eyes of God, this is inconsistent with his plan of creation. It further goes on in the Talmud to explain, and it said that there's a provision called Nedarim in the Talmud where it says, well, what does this word toeva, the Hebrew word toeva, actually mean? And it says it's really an acronym for 3 Hebrew words, to'eh, ata, ba, which means in English, you have been led astray, which has a whole different level of meaning, obviously, than the concept of even using the term abomination or perversion. In terms of being led astray, I think what's important to understand that, again, in Orthodox Judaism, what people understand is that this whole question of choice, I think, becomes very much of a red herring. Because the question of choice is that most people within the Orthodox belief system believe that people may not have had a choice in terms of getting the feelings in the first place. that comes about not necessarily by birth. We don't believe there's anything such a thing as a gay gene. But it does come about because of a series of various types of emotional wounding of one sort or another. And therefore, the way we define homosexuality actually is we refer to it as an emotional adaptation. And therefore, if there is an emotional adaptation, there can also be an emotional readaptation. So the question of choice then really is that although someone may have gotten these feelings involuntarily in the first place, they do have a choice as to whether they want to act upon the feelings or whether they want to change the feelings. That's the essence of free will. And free will is a very, very important concept within Judaism and I believe also within Christianity. So really, it's a question of what do you want to do, and do you want to live in consistent with what the understanding is of Leviticus 18:22, or you don't want to. And those of you that heard me last night know that I say, hey, we live in American society. American society is very much an open society, and everyone within American society has the freedom to do what they want to do. And so, I'm not here to sit in judgment as to what one wants to do or not want to do. I am simply saying this is an option, and indeed, one of the things that I think is really very important is to understand the concept of diversity.